They say that statistically, 1 in 3 life insurance policies end up in the wrong hands because of outdated beneficiaries. And that's a staggering number because of these conversations that are just not being had. We've never talked about it. I would like to have a conversation pertaining to my daughter's future and the things that I would like to have put in place so therefore she can continue to do the things she would like to do and the things that she's going to need to do according to her mother's wishes and things that we've talked about, me just as her previous partner, that I know that she would want.
Necessity or the need to have those conversations as co-parents on, the communication didn't really happen. That was the biggest thing, even really considering whether or not or how it would be done afterwards,
The thing is, we all think that we have time, but the truth is, most people never expect the what if to come. And I'm telling you, there's nothing that no one could have told me that it would have came as sooner than it did. But when it does, there's no do-overs. And the only thing we can do is just the preparation. What if I told you the hardest part about loss isn't always the grief? It's the aftermath, the paperwork, the shock, the discovery that you were never protected the way you thought. That's exactly what happened to today's guest, William Robinson. He lost Brandy, the mother of his daughter, to breast cancer. And just when he thought the worst was behind him, he found out something no parent should ever have to discover. Neither he nor their daughter were listed as the beneficiaries on Brandy's life insurance policy. Instead, it went to her mom and her brother, not the father or her child. Today, we're going to unpack a story that can happen to any one of us, and the painful truth about what no one tells you when you don't plan for the what if. This isn't about blame. It's about clarity. It's about courage. And it's about what William is doing now to make sure his children will never be left unprotected again. All right. What's going on, brother? First of all, I just want to thank you for having the courage to share your story. Like we've talked about before, and we've talked many times, we have some similarities in our journey, which, I think when it comes to alignment in just walks of life, people cross paths for specific reasons, and even how we even met and how our paths crossed, which is very interesting. But I want to go ahead and just dive right in. And, because I know there's a lot of information, a lot to unpack. But when you first, and I guess take me back to the moment when you realized that you and your daughter weren't listed as the beneficiary, what happened?
Well, I guess I can go back to even before that. It just, one thing with, my situation is that it's, a little unique as far as, the perspective of a co-parent, right? Us being co-parents and, the necessity or the need to have those conversations as co-parents on, what's going to happen, in the event one of us, isn't here. So the communication didn't really happen for the entire process. And so I think that was the biggest thing, because there was no expectations set at all. It was no, me even really considering whether or not or how it would be done afterwards, Yeah. So once it happened, it's like, okay, well, this is the way it is. And the way it's been set up on her end, I was unaware of, and still pretty much am unaware of how they plan on doing it. So it just comes down to me, acting like it never it's on me as far as,
Sure.
making it happen. So yeah.
What would you say, emotionally? And before I even say that, trust me, I understand. I have a 23-year-old daughter, and with me and her mother and co-parenting, we never had the conversation. I never had the conversation till I was married to my actual wife on how we wanted things to be and how we wanted things to set up. And I realized that was a misstep on my part as well. I should have had those conversations. I wasn't even I wasn't even educated enough on with financial literacy to understand how to set my daughter up when I was that young and when I had her. But as I started to get older, I saw those conversations. I mean, we were having just a hard time having just a regular conversations. But I believe that despite all of that, like the well-being of our daughter and our child, we should have placed that as a priority and had the conversations, which we didn't. So emotionally in that moment, like, what did it feel like? And not just as a partner, but as a,
I
as a
mean,
previous partner, but as a father.
as a father, I mean, really, you're thinking about your daughter's future, right? Not just financially, but emotionally. Just physically, just her having her needs being met. But biggest thing emotionally. But yeah, as far as for my daughter, that's her mother. That's a hard pill to swallow. Either
Yeah.
way, we weren't, even though we weren't together, doesn't mean that there wasn't still a relationship there. It was not a volatile relationship by any means. So, those conversations could have possibly happened if we just communicated better, right? And so then, it's only in hindsight afterwards. It's like, hey, life would have been for me now. No, not saying that she didn't set up something, because for all I know, she has something set up. It's just I have no idea. And it's not something that she necessarily gave, I guess, a green light to her family to include me in. So that's something that I would have preferred to know if I was going to be included or not. You see what I'm saying? Like, those are the conversations that we could have definitely had, how it's been done. So, it's almost like I just have to act like it's not there, even if it is there, right? So
Yeah.
maybe it'll. So.
Yeah. And I think I understand completely the perspective, and that's the thing that people don't understand. Like, when it's done, it's done. Like, there is no, well, hey, like, the courts can't overrule. Like, when it's done, it's done. And at that moment, that's when a person has to start making the necessary preparations. And you can either live in that regret, or you can live in that I wish I could have, or you just have to start making the preparations ahead of time. And,
Mhm.
I would also say maybe I don't know, maybe it's a conversation that down the
I
line
mean,
that you might want to
so
have.
yeah, and you have to think about, like, the rights of a co-parent, right? When it comes to that, how much information are they actually who do they have the right to? Like, if you feel that it's necessary to include them in that, or you set up and then you make sure that your people, your family or whatever, know what to do with it, possibly. So it's also me thinking, like, okay, if I didn't get the information, maybe the information wasn't for me, or should have been for me. Should I have this information as her father, the one that's going to be the one taking on the load? So those are thoughts that I have. Like, should I even have the access to the information or not?
Yeah. And I believe that, once again, conversations are key. The conversations that we don't have are what leads to chaos. But I believe that you should at least have the conversation and sit down and even with a structured plan, and say, hey, listen, I don't know what you guys have going on. We've never talked about it. I would like to have a conversation pertaining to my daughter's future and the things that I would like to have put in place. So therefore she can continue to do the things she would like to do, and the things that she's going to need to do according to her mother's wishes, and things that we've talked about, me just as her previous partner, that I know that she would want. And I don't know
Mm.
if you're aware of those things, but in order for you to become aware, I just want to be sure that I share that information with you. And I've created a document that says, hey, listen, these are the things that me and my daughter have talked about. These are the things
Mm.
that me and Brandy have talked about. I just want to make you aware of these things, just so you have an understanding and idea of how that money is being spent, and which I understand. And just so we're clear, I get it. I have no right to that money at all. But I do want to make you aware of what my daughter is looking for, and things that we could maybe put in place to help her transition into a child, a young adult, into an adult with the least amount of friction by us having these conversations.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I mean, we've talked about this before. That's our generation. It's tough for us, our generation, to have these conversations because people feel attacked, people feel entitled, and they
They
don't
feel
want
like
to.
there's some type of motive
Absolutely.
involved.
Absolutely. And the motive is your daughter at the end of the
Correct.
day. And it's hard Because once again, we're dealing with the psychological conditioning of a human being, and they're dealing with their past traumas and emotions of what is tied to their upbringing. And here's a prime example. I have a family member who comes and watches and helps out with my daughter. And, she comes and we have these conversations, and her daughter, she could have a foundation set up for her right now if her mom wasn't conditioned or stuck in whatever trauma that she's dealing with. Because she'll bring something to me, and we had a conversation. She was like, yeah, we have land and I own 5% of 150 acres. And I'm just like, do you understand? Like, she's like, but I said, do you know how much 5% of 150 acres is? That's about 20 football fields. But because of you wanting just to have it, to say you have it, that's tied to whatever lack or whatever you felt something was taken from you, that's preventing you from giving your daughter the right foundation by being scared just to have the conversation. So
yeah, I mean, in those instances, you think it's like, well, you got a little hold of something, and then in our psyche, it's like it's a fear there that little bit of something could go back to nothing. So we get scared to even take a little piece of that and do something, to where we can have free flowing and
yep.
residuals and things like that, because of the fear that has already been, placed of like, man, if I do that, I can pretty much lose everything already.
Yeah.
If I don't do it right.
And I agree. And the thing is, we all think that we have time, but the truth is, like, most people never expect the what if to come. And I'm telling you, there's nothing that no one could have told me that it would have came as sooner than it did. But when it does, like, there's no do-overs. And the only thing we can do is just the preparation, like, ahead of time. So based upon your past experiences, what are some things financially and legal changes that you had to face, like, immediately after, like, Brandy's passing? Because I know for me, like, people don't understand, like, life didn't stop. Like, life kept coming, and a million things are coming, but they were coming in slow motion. And even though they were coming in slow motion, you couldn't grab on to things because you were still trying to grasp the reality of the situation, and really the pain that you were feeling for your daughter of not being able to have her mother, on top of the financial responsibility that was coming. So after that happened, like, what were some of those things that you faced when it came to, like, the financial and, like, legal challenges?
Well, I mean, I always tried to be pretty financially sound, as far as when it was, taking care of my family. So, yeah, I mean, going from being a non-custodial parent to the custodial parent, there's obviously going to be a difference in, of amount of money spent. And then, yeah, as a man, it's like you gotta get out there and get it right. Like the breadwinner, the head of the family. Great thing is I had a great support system. So my main concern was always just my daughter, and making sure that she had what she needed, because majority of it, she's always had what she needed. Not having a whole parent is a whole nother ball game. And so with her family and her uncle, her mom, her support system, it wasn't a lot of things that hit me that I wasn't prepared for. So once we found out what things were gonna, happen the way they were, I had already been, prior to that, preparing, making sure that I was covered, making sure that, I had certain money stashed away, things like that. So yeah, it's just the shock of going from non-custodial to custodial parent, groceries, clothes, shoes, food, being able to reallocate funds from this over here and move it to that, and then just like I said, not having that support financially from, that side. So it's like bills went up. That's just how it's just, your bills just go up instantly, and you got to figure that thing out.
Yeah. So what conversations are you having now that you wish you would have had then?
Well, so yeah, being proactive, like what if, the whole what if question, like, if this happens, then if and then what are the plans? Where are we placing, where are we doing this at, and where are we putting this money? Then the hows or the whys, what is going to be the returns? I have a couple of friends or relatives that were financial advisors, and just kind of doing my own research and just making sure that I'm covered to, because it happened to her. That don't mean it can't happen to both of us. And then, so what if I'm not here? Then
Yeah.
what? So
And would you say that, so how has this experience shifted your, which you touched on it, but I guess, how has this experience shifted your understanding of estate planning and life insurance?
oh yeah, it's necessary. It's something that you got to find a way to do it the best way you can do it. I think that there are a bunch of different options in how to do it. Not every option is for every person, but you have to go and seek out the best way for you to do it for you and your family. And so, there's people out there that know how to do it. I think making sure that you're seeking out that information
Yeah, it's
is
a,
important.
they say that statistically, 1 in 3 life insurance policies end up in the wrong hands because of outdated beneficiaries. And that's a staggering number. And your story like brings it to life in the most heartbreaking way because of these conversations that are just not being had. And so what specific steps like have you taken now to secure, her future based upon your experiences and the information and the knowledge that you've been able to obtain based upon that?
Well, that's a big one right there. Just making sure your beneficiaries are updated. Like, and that you've actually sat there and thought about it, like
Yeah.
who you're putting in, as your beneficiaries. Because I think we tend to put the people we like the most or who we think is the best with money
Yep.
necessarily, and sometimes that doesn't necessarily make them a good beneficiary. You gotta, what is their, how stable are they? What is,
No, I think we had that conversation too at the house where like my beneficiaries are my business partners on my financial side because I
yeah.
understand that they are going to really do the things that are necessary according to my wishes. And we have the same thought process. And it goes back to what you said. Like, I agree. A beneficiary of a life insurance policy, technically, well, not technically, the beneficiary of a life insurance policy should be the trust, which that's a rabbit hole, but it should be the trust because the trust is going to have the person that is designated, that you have designated to actually, which is a trustee, to actually orchestrate your wishes accordingly. And it also protects it in, other aspects of people trying to go after it. And I think I may have said this before, when my wife had passed, one of her family members calling like the banks and trying to get information on our estate and see if there was something left to her, which is beyond crazy to me based upon the relationship that they had. But, I think that the beneficiary should be designated to the trust, and the trustee is somebody that you've appointed to carry out all of your wishes. So you know that things are going to be distributed and orchestrated in the correct manner. Because it says that 54% of Americans have life insurance, but nearly half of them are unclaimed. And for the rest, it's one wrong signature, one outdated name, and the money that was meant for our children or for our legacy is gone. And I think that that information and those numbers, to me, it's mind blowing. And I guess it's mind blowing because of my experience. And I think it's, same from your experience where we have just a different perspective. And I hope that when people are watching this, they're taking this information. And even if it, like, as Tupac said, he just wants to, and I'm quoting, but he may not be the one to change the world, but he may spark the idea and the person who may change the world. And that's the thing. This conversation may not change the world and how they think about protecting themselves and creating their legacy, but it may spark one person who needs to hear this, where this will then set up their legacy and their family and protect their family. And that person may go on and say, hey, because my dad did this. And then it creates and breaks, generational curses and builds generational knowledge to be passed down. I would say, so let me ask you this. What would you say are 3 practical things someone can do today to avoid the situation you went through?
The first thing is to seek out the knowledge, do some research, go and look into what are things that people do to set themselves up for success in these situations. Make sure you have some type of coverage when it comes to life insurance for you and your family. Like, so many people that are of these wealthy families these days, a lot of them happen from life insurance policies when somebody passed that passed down that generational wealth. So know those things. Like, a lot of times you might not have it saved up based off of your income from your job, but once you die and you have $1 million policy, $10 million policy, and they go to your kids, then that's setting them up for success later on in life. Things like that.
Yeah. And once again, this episode and this podcast is not, I don't sell life insurance. This is not a episode about life insurance, but it is a tool. It is a necessity that we have access to be able to set our families up and give them a foundation to continue to allow them to live a life with the least amount of friction as possible in our absence. So for the couples or the co-parents that are listening who've never had the conversation.
Well, that's the first thing right there. Have the conversation. Talk about it. Don't avoid it. Don't avoid those tough conversations, especially, in the event that one of you has some type of illness or in those instances, like I would say be proactive when it comes to that. But I mean, especially in those instances, because I think emotions get, involved. Put your pride aside. Make sure that thinking of the kids and the entire situation, the big picture, not just the little picture. I think that's the big. Don't procrastinate. I think that happened. The fact that I got time, like you said earlier, I got time. We can have this conversation when we need to, but that's how you look up and realize it didn't pass you by.
Yeah. So, okay, William, if you could go back and leave a 1-minute message to the version of yourself before Brandy got sick, what would you say about love, protection, preparing for the unexpected?
I say, just like I was just saying, humble yourself in that moment and just communicate transparently, honestly, and then just think about the future, think about the kids, think about things like that. Like, just have the conversation. That's the biggest thing. In our instance, like I said, we didn't have a volatile relationship, but I do think that when it came to finances between co-parents, that's already a taboo subject because, you got the child support involved and you got all these different things. I think it's okay to have that conversation and say, hey, look, I know I'm sending you child support of X dollars a month, but how about we allocate some of that to something that's going to set the kid up for success? You know what I'm saying? Like, having those type of conversations. That's what I would tell myself. Hey, man, like, be more intentional on how you setting things up for your child's future.
That's good. That's good. So I want everyone listening, and I want every father, every mother, every co-parent, every protector that's listening to take this in. What happened to William could happen to anyone. And it's not because of bad intentions. It's because of no plan. It's not if something happens, it's when. And when it does, the people you love deserve more than confusion and courtroom battles. They deserve security. They deserve dignity. They deserve peace. And William, I want to thank you for turning your pain into purpose, for showing us that even after loss, you can still choose to lead. And anyone listening, don't wait for the storm to get ready. Visit the When Would Have Happens podcast and also check out the When Would Have Happens legacy deck to grab your deck to have the conversations that are often hard to have and really start having those in your household now, because when the what if happens, the only thing worse than grief is being unprepared. I'm your host, Jason Brown, and I will see you guys next time on the When What If Happens podcast. Once again, my brother, thank you very much. I appreciate your story. I appreciate your courage. And I hope that, once again, this story sparks the thought in someone to go have those conversations tonight. Once again, thank you. I appreciate you guys.